First of all, this guy is one of my favorite people just in general. Forget him being a sports guy or just or doing a fantastic job covering Bama. He's just a good natured human being, very transparent, an amazing aura, good energy. Amazing person. So I just love Kyle just as a person, as a reporter, and the thing that he does in Bama, that's even better. That just enhances who he is as a person. But I'm just looking forward just to having a conversation with him because he's just a great guy. But let me go ahead and go to our Speakeasy Lounge. Let's bring in Kyle Henderson from Bama Online, and let's catch up with our main man, our dude. Good morning, Kyle. How are you?
Yo, what's up, man? I appreciate you having me on this morning. And what's up to everybody inside the comment box? I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you for that warm introduction, man. Happy to talk some college football playoffs. It's that time. In a couple hours, I will be on my way to the ATL. I know you mentioned Ludacris in your opening, as I am going to the SEC title game and really looking forward to it, man. So thank you very much.
Well, yeah, man. I mean, it's first of all, where is your go-to spot in the ATL?
Yo, so the crazy thing is I like to go up to the Peachtree Tower. So you got to go all the way up to like the 83rd floor or something like that. But I like to go up there and have a nice little cocktail, kind of overlook the city, kind of set the tempo. But honestly, I've always had such a good time in Atlanta. The people have treated me really well. We might go hit up some spots in Decatur, just all around. I mean, I've had a really good time in Atlanta. I've been there so many times. I could probably give a tour of the Mercedes Stadium. But looking forward to it this round as we have an action-packed game. All eyes on this one as Alabama is about to take on this red-hot Georgia team. And as you were mentioning in the open, the transformation between Alabama from when Texas fans saw Alabama and now has been amazing. All teams are different, but this team in particular, riding a 10-game winning streak going against the number one ranked Bulldogs, is going to be a fantastic matchup, no doubt.
Kyle, all right. Last time Texas fans saw Bama, like I said, their team went to Tuscaloosa and did something that nobody really does to a Nick Saban team, right?
Yeah.
They're more physical on that night. They win by double digits on that night. And Steve Sarkisian keeps pointing and says, hey, that's probably the best win in all of college football for any team this year. The following week, we watch and we see the struggles versus USF. Obviously, Milroe's not in the game, and there's probably more to it. I've always had my conspiracy theories that he was serving some sort of double secret probation suspension of some sort. But nonetheless, he comes back, and Alabama gets hot. What has happened since Texas fans have decided to watch 4 quarters of an Alabama game?
Well, I think, this team has certainly grown up. And I think a lot of the teams, how you look to them from week 2 or week 1 or whatever, they've all grown up. I mean, this team on Alabama's offensive side, they were sophomoric. I mean, Jalen Milroe, he's a sophomore. Tyler Booker, their guard, he's a sophomore. Jam Miller, he's a sophomore. Isaiah Bond, who caught the game winner against Auburn. What's up, Ryan? I see you inside the comment box. Didn't look different against Auburn. Hey, dude, that's a rivalry game. Things go sideways in that game. I've seen some crazy things at Jordan-Hare Stadium. And a lot of these guys are sophomores on this team. So to see the growth of this team now playing more like juniors has been a really amazing story, because I think overall so many people doubted this team. I've been in Alabama since 2016, and I've covered 4 national title games. Going to the Citrus Bowl was like, third world country for me. So I'm used to seeing these Alabama teams where everybody has almost lost interest in them because they're that good. They're that talented. So seeing this team where a lot of people felt they were vulnerable, and they were beatable. Texas beat them. That was a really good win from Texas, and they, have had that on their resume. I'm talking about Texas since week 2, and that's something that the committee has really valued, is that head-to-head, and that's why they're keeping Texas at 7. Now, the team that I have something to talk about is Oregon, so I'm sure we're going to dive into that. Oregon, who have you beaten? You have an opportunity to beat Washington, but I'm just saying, when you look to the resumes, the growth of this team, you have to remember, this team had a new defensive coordinator, a new offensive coordinator. Tommy Rees is an offensive coordinator. I mean, I think he's like 31 years old. So the growth of him and coming from Notre Dame to Alabama, look, I get it. Everybody wants Notre Dame to be that team that we grew up with watching on NBC, and they're a good team, but they're not a great team. So when you come to Alabama and you have all these 5 stars to work with, it's going to take some time to develop, and especially when you have a quarterback like Jalen Milroe, how can we not necessarily control him, but unleash him? And I think he's done a better job of that in the back end. He was up for the Broyles Award. I really think this team has been built on defense, and we've seen so much growth. And let me ask everybody inside the comment box, and thank you very much for supporting Anwar and Orange Bloods. I think they do a tremendous job. Okay, if we're judging teams from how we saw them in the beginning of the season or holding them accountable overall, remember that time in the world where we thought that Colorado, I didn't think this for 1 second, but people thought that Colorado was going to be this team that could continue to move up in the college football rankings. No, that was all a facade. And I think Oregon got some style points from beating Colorado early in the season, as they did in Eugene, Oregon. Colorado, look, the story behind that and how Coach Prime was able to rebuild a team, that was really interesting, and I think that was notable for what he was able to do in the beginning of the season. I covered the Colorado Buffaloes. I had a company that operated out of Boulder. I know how challenging it is to win. So look, you have to rank the teams as they're playing at this point in time. Put the best 4 teams in college football that are playing at this point in time, not back in week 2, no disrespect to the win against Alabama from Texas, but rank the best 4 teams right now, not based on kind of the overall. And I get it, the resume stands a lot in terms of the committee, but the teams right now, the best 4 you got to go with.
All right, so let's do it. Mm-hmm. Who's Kyle's top teams right now? Like, you're in the room. I put you in the room. I took out one of these idiots who doesn't know what the hell they're voting for, and someone has a real criteria. So I replaced you. Yeah. Give me your rankings then, Kyle.
Well, one of the things that stands out to me is kind of the wins over current top 25 teams as in this point in time. I do value head-to-head, so I think that Texas has an amazing shot to get in the playoffs, considering that they did beat Alabama, and I think it only helps the Texas Longhorns if Alabama is to beat Georgia in this SEC title game. The one thing that when I look to the top 4 teams is, this Michigan team. I mean, Michigan was able to beat Ohio State at the Big House, and what they've done on the season, minus the allegations or whatever, I mean, hard to discount that. They are 2-0 against top 25 teams, beating Penn State and Ohio State. I mean, J.J. McCarthy, I thought he threaded the needle very nicely in this last game, and Blake Corum's a very good running back. So I think the winner of the Big Ten certainly has a seat at the playoff table. So let's label them one. Now, I don't think either of the Pac-12 teams is a top 4 team, and I know you asked me who are the best 4 teams. The committee is going to put a Pac-12 team in. They love Oregon. They love the style points. Or you're going to have an undefeated Washington team led by a great quarterback in Michael Penix, right? So I think they're a playoff team, either one of those teams. I don't personally think that one of those teams is a playoff team. So my team is Michigan. If they win the Big Ten. Of course, Georgia. That's probably my first team in. Now, you're like, what? You cover Alabama. Yeah, I do have Alabama, and I do have Alabama as a top 4 team. And after that, I'm going to take Texas. I think that Texas, their body of work overall, they played the number 1 strength of schedule in the country, according to Power Guru. They do have a win over Alabama. They were able to win some games that were difficult without Quinn Ewers, and I thought Malik came in and did a really good job. So I have Michigan, I have Georgia, I have Bama, and I have Texas. Now, look, I think Oregon has had a great season. I think Washington has had a great season. I think Florida State has had a great season. Florida State, look, I don't think that Florida State was a playoff team with Jordan Travis, and I don't think, especially with him out, and thoughts and prayers to him and hopefully a speedy recovery to an absolute baller. I mean, you look at the quarterbacks across college football this year: Jaden Daniels, Jordan Travis, Penix, Bo Nix, Quinn Ewers, Jalen Milroe, all these guys that are playing at such a high level, and you hate to see that for the kid, but overall, I just don't think that Florida State is a top 4. So my top 4, Georgia, Michigan, Alabama, Texas.
Okay. You didn't say Alabama 3 and Texas 4, though, right? You
No,
just said
I think that will be up to the committee to kind of determine. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if 2 SEC teams still get in the playoffs, to be honest. I mean, I think if you're taking the best 4, which is their ultimate job, then that's what you have to do. Realistically, I don't think that's going to happen. So if Alabama is to somehow beat this Georgia team, because Georgia's team is phenomenal. I mean, I have some stats right here. I mean, their resume, 29-game winning streak, number 6 total offense, number 9 total defense, beat number 11 Ole Miss, number 21 Tennessee, beat number 9 Missouri, 3-0 versus top 25, number 58 on Power Guru. They're a plus 210 to win the college football title. Brock Bowers is going to be healthy. He's an absolute monster. Carson Beck is another guy I didn't mention in terms of quarterbacks. The guy is playing. Nobody's talking about him. He is absolutely on fire. So if Alabama beats that Georgia team, here's my question to you guys. Check this out. Because if think about this, because Texas beat Alabama and they love kind of style points and what Georgia has been able to do. What if Alabama is somehow to beat Georgia, right? And then they still take Georgia into the playoffs. And you're like, what? Could that happen? Yeah, it happened last year when Kansas State was able to beat TCU. So, look, this team likes Georgia. They value Georgia's overall resume. They love Oregon. They love Michigan. So, and Texas has that win that I think has been a trump card all year against the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Well, that's why, Kai, when you said and I want to talk pass, because when you said like, hey, the best path for Texas is for a Bama win, that's kind of where I would actually disagree with you, because I feel like the best path for Texas is a Georgia win, because they eliminate the Bama conversation, any kind of tendency for do anything. The best path to me is a Georgia win and an FSU loss. That puts in a Big 12, a Big 10 team. That's fine. It puts in a Pac-12 team. That's fine. Georgia's in. That's fine. And that's automatically Texas gets to probably move up, right? So I think for me that's there. I want to know for you, what's the path? You've done the math. What's the path for Bama to get into the top 4, to get into the playoffs this year? Because it's going from 8 into the 4. That's not an easy task. What would need to happen for Bama?
Well, I mean, it's pretty simple, Anwar. I think it's to beat Georgia. I don't think there's any type of score that needs to be, they don't need to win by 7. They don't need to win by 14. They need to show the committee and the rest of the college football world that they are still at the top of the college football mountain. This is a great opportunity to beat Georgia. Overall, Georgia has the best resume in college football, 100%. That's why they're the number 1 team. The way that they're playing, Kirby Smart has them playing at such a high team. So it's amazing that Alabama's at 8 and Georgia's at 1. That's Alabama's best opportunity. Alabama, since they lost to Texas, they have been in an elimination game every single week. And that's also kind of been added fuel to the fire for Alabama, because they know, a slip up against anyone knocks them out of the playoffs. So, yeah, and I see what you're saying in terms of Georgia beating Alabama, because then it does eliminate Alabama, and Texas can get in depending on what happens with Florida State. The Florida State team, it's I wouldn't be surprised clearly if they lost to Louisville. I don't think anyone would be. If these guys win and they're 13-0 and they make the playoffs without Jordan Travis, look, you can't penalize the whole team. I get it, but they are not a top 4 team, even with Jordan Travis. They weren't. They're living off that LSU win. They were trailing 13-0 to North Alabama in the first quarter when Jordan Travis was still in the game. If Alabama was trailing 13-0 to Chattanooga, they would be held to a different standard. They would be knocked out of the college football playoffs. So, I think that Alabama's best shot to get in is just to simply beat the Georgia Bulldogs, who are number 1. And then, I can see, Georgia or Texas, how are you going to value that head-to-head? Because Alabama would have beat Georgia and Texas would have beat, Alabama. And then you might have to just go to SEC champion. Who was the SEC champ? Who was the Big 12 champ? So, So
in that scenario, let's do this. Let's say that Michigan's in, right? And then nothing happens crazy against Iowa this weekend. We assume either Oregon or Washington is in, right? So we'll put them in there. Okay, in our scenario, let's put FSU as an undefeated team in, right? Because no matter what, in the rankings, they are at number 4, right? So we can't, we can't. Sometimes I keep saying we can't apply logic to a committee that seems to be illogical, right? So now, if in your scenario, if Bama could beat Georgia, you've got a 12-1 Georgia, you got a 12-1 Alabama, got a 12-1 Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Who gets that last spot?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess it would be, Can
you see a world where the SEC doesn't have a team in the playoffs? Can we see a world where Georgia lost, Bama won, Texas is a conference champion, but Texas beat Alabama, but the committee's saying, you know what? And all the things you just cited about Georgia, we're going to penalize them.
Yeah.
Like, who gets in if it's Georgia, Alabama, and Texas all with one loss?
Yeah, I got it. Look, I think that, one of the things that I look at is with the ACC is this particular fact. So you have Louisville, who just played Kentucky. Can anybody remember the score of that game? They just played, okay? So Louisville was a top 10 team, okay? Georgia and Alabama just completely took Kentucky to the woodshed. I mean, they could have beat them by whatever you wanted. Kentucky beat Louisville this past week. So the SEC and the ACC are not built the same. I think we all know that. Does the committee know that? I'm not sure. There's a lone rep from the committee, and guess who he's the head AD of? He's the AD at Kentucky. So Mitch Leinart is the Kentucky AD. He's the lone rep of the SEC, and so he has an opportunity to tell the committee, look, I faced Georgia, I faced Alabama. These are the two teams. I think, it's hard for these guys to put the top 4 teams in because I think there's a large group in that room that feels it's the 4 most deserving. So that's where you have Florida State or a Washington that's undefeated getting in. The Pac-12 and the ACC are just, not elite conferences, but they do have the records. And Oregon specifically, they have the style points. The way that Bo Nix has been racking up numbers, I mean, it's really been impressive from a college football perspective. But in terms of a top 4, I just don't like Oregon versus, some of these bigger teams like Georgia or Alabama. I don't know about Michigan. Michigan's a team built off defense. I think they have the number 1 or number 2 defense in the entire country. So who knows? But I think in terms of the one-loss teams, if Alabama is to beat Georgia, simply put, I think you have Michigan, Pac-12 team, Alabama, and Texas. And I think you leave Florida State out.
You think if FSU wins?
Yeah, I think they still get left out. I think, and the reason I say this is, look, FSU right now, you can go to Vegas Insider, and you can Vegas is telling. I mean, if you look at the odds, Vegas is already telling you. Vegas, I mean, their odds for Florida State right now. I mean, this was yesterday, plus 2,500. So, I mean, that tells you, for example, like Texas plus 900, Oregon. I don't know. I think they're plus 700, Bama plus 600 or something like that. So, I mean, Vegas is already telling you that this Florida State team is not the same team with Jordan Travis. Before that, with Jordan Travis healthy, I think it was like plus 700 or something like that. So I just don't think that Florida State gets in regardless of if they win or not.
So you think Bama and Texas gets in potentially? Wow, that's a fat now that would just
Well, I mean,
that would just tick off everyone in Tallahassee if that happened, though. I like where your head's at, though. So
put the 4 best teams in. I mean, you got to do it. I mean, the last time that Florida State and Alabama played, and I know the past doesn't dictate the future. I mean, Florida State's program almost had to drop out of, the FBS. I mean, you saw what happened. They had to, get a couple different it was bad. And I think it would be the same thing, especially with Rodemaker at quarterback. I think Alabama would beat the brakes off Florida State.
So let me ask you this, then in another scenario, if Georgia beats Alabama and Texas wins, you think Texas should get in over FSU?
Yeah, I'm telling you, yes.
Okay, I like where your head's at. All right. Then tell me about this game then. I know you only got a few more minutes. I know you got to get set up for your show. So tell me about this weekend's game. Give me the understanding of, what's at stake, but break down some of the matchups for me.
I think when you look to this particular game, I mean, all eyes are certainly going to be, can Milroe rise to the occasion against the Georgia Bulldogs? So I think you're about to see something even more special from Jalen Milroe. I mean, if they unleash him and you're like, all right, Milroe, go out and just completely take over, he's probably the most dynamic player in all of college football. So if he can be able just to play his game and just be relaxed, I think that he's going to be a major X factor. On the flip side, Georgia, ever since they switched from kind of their 3 yards in a cloud of dust and they're more a balanced team, this team is, won 2 national titles. Carson Beck has 3,400 yards passing, 22 touchdowns. Milton is a fantastic running back. So is Edwards. They have plenty of weapons to spread the football around to. And Alabama's defense has been tested, right? They went against Texas, Steve Sarkisian, who, by the way, got robbed from the Big 12 Coach of the Year 100%. They went against Lane Kiffin. They went against some elite wide receivers from Texas A&M. They went against Malik Neighbors from LSU and Jaden Daniels. The thing that Alabama has not faced is a dynamic tight end since week 2 in your tight end from Texas. That's probably, I think, the second best tight end in college football. Brock Bowers is a nightmare. There's no way that you can stop him. Can you contain him? I don't know. The performance that he had against Auburn in the second half of that game was probably the best overall performance so far in college football. He was making one-handed catches, contested. The guy's a monster. He didn't play I didn't think he played at all against Georgia Tech because he's coming off that tightrope, but he's going to be 100%. So stopping him is going to be a major challenge for Alabama. I think it also comes down to this key stat. So when you look to the SEC title game, check this out. Alabama's quarterbacks, I say that, have been sacked a total of 39 times this season. It's one of the worst in college football, okay? Georgia's quarterback, Carson Beck, has been sacked just 10 times. Just 10. So Georgia's offensive line is phenomenal. Now, with that said, Alabama has 2 edge rushers that have a combined 17 sacks, and that is Dallas Turner, who's a top 10 pick in this next year's NFL draft, along with Chris Broswell. So when you look to storylines of the game, you have to get to the quarterback if you're Alabama. You have to somehow stop Brock Bowers. And then the third thing is special teams play. Will Riker, who's up for the Lou Garza Award, who probably will win it, his next point, he'll be the all-time leading scorer in NCAA football history. Right? He missed 2 kicks against LSU down the stretch, and he missed a kick against the Auburn Tigers as well. I don't know if that's starting to live up in his head. As we know, things float up to kickers' minds. If he can block that stuff out and you can play good on special teams, that's probably one area where Alabama has the edge in. So it's going to be a challenge for Alabama, but this is the one year that Nick Saban has had reverse rat poison to work with. And what that means is they don't believe in you. You're number 8. They don't believe you belong here. They don't believe in your ability to throw the football, Jalen. They don't believe in this defense that you can stop, Brock Bowers and Carson Beck. So there's a lot on the line. There's so much at stake, more than the SEC title game, the playoffs, and I think going forward too. I mean, if Georgia wins this game, I think Georgia wins the national title game. And that would be 3 in a row for Kirby, and really a passing of the torch from Nick Saban to Kirby Smart. And you look at kind of the NIL deals and everything that kind of follows that. There's so much on the line in college football, but give me Bama this weekend. They've continued to step up week after week when people continue to doubt them. This team's on a mission. I don't think that this team loses another football game this season.
Wow. All right. So do you have a score prediction yet, Kyle? Or are you working on that in your head?
I don't know. I mean, maybe like a 35-31, something like that. I think there'll be some points on the board. I mean, how could there not be? I mean, these two teams are going to get theirs. It's a heavyweight fight. There's going to be some points on the board. I think it's going to be another thriller in Atlanta. I like Nick Saban, and it's not hard to like what he continues to put together in big games like this.
Last thing, Kyle, I'll let you go. Kind of a big picture question. You've obviously this year more than any other year, you've followed Texas and you've kept up with them. You've had a chance to see them in person. Obviously, Texas joins the conference next year. How ready do you think this program is to compete week in and week out with the big boys in the SEC?
I mean, they're ready. I mean, pay Steve Sarkisian whatever he wants. I mean, this is the coach that we thought he was going to be. I've been a big fan of Steve Sarkisian. What I love is the transformation of him as a coach since he was at Atlanta, then to Alabama, into Texas. I like the fact that he has kind of that dog mentality. He's fired up. I mean, he's a younger guy. He's so dialed in. This world of college football is built off really good quarterbacks and how you can move the football. The offensive weapons that he has are really dangerous. I think sky's the limit for the Texas Longhorns. I think that they're certainly up for the challenge to come to the SEC. They've already proven that. They've already beaten the Alabama Crimson Tide. I think that really catapulted this program. Steve Sarkisian, if he doesn't win the Big 12 Coach of the Year, who gives? Whatever. I think that overall what he's done, he could probably be the overall Coach of the Year, probably next to Nick Saban as well, because you looked at how this team started at the beginning and where they're playing right now. But I'm a huge fan of Steve Sarkisian. I like what he brings to the table. I like his offense. I like his just overall thought process. This guy's pay him whatever you can right now, because this is the next coach in line, just completely trending the right way. And I'm not just saying that because it's a Texas-based show. Everybody knows it. Steve Sarkisian, his rebuilding process has been amazing, and I'm really happy for him personally.
Kyle, tell everybody how they can follow you, check you out, get you on YouTube, online, everything like that. We gotta keep up with you this weekend for sure, Kyle. So tell everybody where to find you.
Yeah, well, the great thing about me is I'm not part of any big conglomerate. I'm not part of Rivals, who was really good to me for a long time. I had a short stint with On3, but I'm independent, and I'm built to be independent. I'm self-motivated. I'm energetic, and I really like what I do, honestly. So I appreciate the introduction, by the way, at the beginning, because that is me, honestly. So Bama Football on YouTube, closing in on 100,000 subscribers is how I support my 2 kids, myself, and I'm really proud about that because I put in the work, and I have whiteboards all over this room. And then this whiteboard right here, it says, believe in yourself, be authentic, put in the work, stay consistent. And that's what you can get from me, and also at Bama Football on YouTube.
I think that the transparent conversation that we had, during the SEC media days before we went on, that was like that set me over the edge as far as like, I love this dude, because the transparency that you have, you talk, you share our stories, and so many. The kind of last I'll say is like part of like Movember, it's been like the men's health and men's health awareness and things to that effect, right? It's been like, hey, sometimes we as men, we're not vulnerable with each other. We don't talk to each other about things. And so therefore you never know what the things you say can help others. So that's one thing I love about you and I appreciate about you. That's one of the things that makes you really authentic, Kyles.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And before I go, kind of to catapult on that, I'm part of a group here in Tuscaloosa. Of course, it's across the country, but it's called F3, Fitness, Faith, and Fellowship. And basically we work out every morning at 5:30 in the morning. And, it's a boot camp style, but there's always a spiritual message on the back end. I myself, battled with depression, but I had to work on myself, and there was no one that came to save me other than myself. And diving into myself for my workouts and kind of diving back into my work and focusing on me. So, like you said, there are people to talk to, but believe in yourself. And it's really amazing to see what other men, how they can help you kind of up your game. And I love surrounding myself with people that are on a mission, that have an objective every single day. So I love that about you guys, and continue the great work. You guys have always been so good to me, and I'm really appreciative about that.
Thank you, Kyle, brother. Hey, I know you got to get ready for your show. Thank you for not only your great information, not only your great presentation, but being a great guy as well. So thank you, Kyle. Enjoy, safe travels to the ATL. Okay, brother?
All right, man. Thank you very much.
All right, Kyle Henderson, as you guys see, that's the dude. No, he's not Mr. Redface. He's not Mr. Redface. That was from the guy from the AL or whatever. No. This Kyle, he's smooth. He's smooth. Boy, I didn't tell you. Last time Kyle was on the show, I had somebody ask me who's he? One of my lady friends wanted to know who he was. I was like, yeah, well, I was like, she's in Jacksonville. I mean, maybe can make this work. I said, I was like, I ain't gonna play matchmaker. I'm not gonna play matchmaker. I'm gonna let Kyle find his blessings. I won't be able to do that. Solid Fisher here on our tape. This is a month, 5 weeks worth of growth here for Movember men's health awareness. We talked about suicide prevention, everything like that. But